Hello, everyone. Today we're going to talk about Chapter 11, which is about the drug problem in America, in the United States. Do you think we have a drug problem? What type of drug problem do we have? I think it's been in the news a lot, hasn't it? So when we talk about drug problems, we can talk about prescription drug problems, or we can talk about illegal drug problems. A lot of people are getting hooked on OxyContin. That's not all. A lot of them got hooked on it because they were given the medication because they had pain in their neck or something like that. But then they get hooked on it. And once they can't get a prescription anymore, where are they going to go to get it? They're going to go to the street. And that's been a big problem. I think the meth is a significant problem in America. And look at the problem we're having with heroin now, the heroin overdoses. And I'm sure none of you eat soap pods for detergent. It really cleans out their system, doesn't it? One of the other ones is marijuana. There are lots of discussions about marijuana, whether it's bad or bad, and its relation to crime. Well, many law enforcement officers thought, well, it's not going to be that big of an issue on crime. But when Denver, Colorado legalized marijuana, they actually saw an increase in crime. They also had a 50% increase in the number of infants that were sent to the ER because they had accidentally ingested marijuana. Dogs and other domestic pets were dying because the THC in marijuana was toxic to them. And they were allowed to grow, I think, 7 plants in their basement. Well, what they were doing was setting up an operation. So they were selling a lot. And in the beginning, before they could use the banks, they had to deal strictly in cash. So they would have large amounts of cash on them, and they were robbed, or their house was burglarized. And you have no reason to go in and check their house, but they know that a lot of people are doing this. Traffic accidents for DUID, driving under the influence of drugs, have gone up, and then things going across the border. So it doesn't always come free. So it has actually increased issues for Denver. And the one thing the chief said from Denver said, if you're going to do it, look at it very thoroughly, because it's not what we thought it was going to be, and we wish we'd have studied it more. You think about the war on drugs. Was the war on drugs successful? Whose war on drugs was it? Who created the war on drugs? Or what entity created the war on drugs? Once I see your responses, I'll give you what actually happened, at least from our perspective, the law enforcement perspective. But those types of things are significantly they significantly increase the crime and other things that go on. And it really went to locking up a lot of people for frivolous offenses, for very minor offenses. And I'm just interested to see what you say about it. When I talk about DUID, now they're kind of calling it drug driving problem. And I've had some people tell me, oh, it doesn't do anything. Well, it does. It puts you in a euphoric state, and it will make your reactions slow. And that's the type of thing that happens. If you take enough of it, it can be like drinking. Is there a problem with underage drinking? Alcohol's been a significant problem all along. Think about how many people die a year because of drunk drivers. I think you'd be surprised just how many there are. And you can't just outlaw it. We tried the Volstead Act back in the early part of the century, and that was a terrible mistake. It was one of the worst things that Congress ever passed. I think they're going to outdo that soon, but right now it's pretty bad. So if you think about it, the book tells you that the cost of substance abuse is $193 billion a year. Well, that's gone up a little bit, because now what do we have to worry about? Emergency crews, even police officers are supposed to carry Narcoban now to counteract the effects of these narcotics. Schools are starting to have to put the stuff have it in their nurses' station. So I think the cost has gone up dramatically, and the opiate crisis now is just significant. How do you think we can address the drug problem? Now, in the war on drugs, they arrested everybody that they caught with drugs. But where is the problem? That's treating a symptom. These people are symptoms. So what do you want to do when you're trying to control a drug problem. Think about that. Let me know what you think. Other things that most of you probably went through some type of DARE program. Those are good programs. But they also got reality-based approach to drug education, where they have people come in and tell them what's happened to them based on their use of drugs. And there's life skills training, drug resistance training. There are all kinds of things that are out there, but they're not all inclusive. So are there better ways to do it? Or is that the best way we can do it? And you're going to have sound public investment, just like the book says. It's going to take money to solve these drug problems. And you can't just do it on tax dollars. You've got to have the buy-in of the public. And when you have that, they can get some legislative pressure, or put pressure on their legislators to pass laws that help get these drugs under control. What do you think would be the best way to do it? I can't divide you into sections, that's for sure. Drug raids, surveillance, all these types of things have been used to combat drugs. Undercover assignments, going after the dealers, arresting drug users. Does that one solve anything? Improving intelligence. All those things they require a significant resource. So we're not just talking about money as a resource. We're talking about personnel. And the recruitment rate for public safety right now, policing, is extremely low. Extremely low. And a lot of it's because of what's going on lately in the media for the last year or so, a couple of years. What about specific areas that have problems? When they had the Volstead Act and alcohol was banned, what do people do when they're depressed? They drink. What do they do when they're happy? They drink. So since that's what they would do, they would buy it outside the market, or you have speakeasies or things like that. That's originally how some of these gangsters made their money back in the 20s. So what would cause a big drug problem in public housing? I have had to deal with a drug problem in a privately owned apartment complex. And how we did that was we got public health, we got the fire inspector, we got the building compliance inspector with us, and we all went into this building. And they have a lot more power than the police have over top of the owner. For example, they would have to fix electrical stuff, they might have to fix plumbing stuff. Health department goes in there and makes has their shots. So it's a coordinated effort. Matter of fact, a captain with Waynesboro Police Department put that together. Captain Mike Martin, so I give him credit for that. And we even brought refuse collection out there to clean up the outside. And when those guys get in there, they can shut them down. And oddly enough, it was an apartment complex that had a large number of illegal immigrants in it. Well, we didn't care that they were illegal immigrants. What we wanted to do is give them a living space that was free from crime. And it's hard to do, and it takes a while, but you get the buy-in from the apartment renters, because they're afraid to talk to the owner because they're afraid they'll be kicked out. So this gives them the power. They don't have to say anything. We can go in there and clean it out. And it did, and they're a much better place now. A lot of it because the owners got divorced and the woman took it, and she's much better to deal with. State actions like age of 21 before you can drink. In London, it's 18. When I was growing up, it was 18, and they changed it to 21. What do you think about that? And what do you think about the blood alcohol level at 0.08? Do you think that should be lowered? Because it's been lowered significantly since I've been in law enforcement in that 35 years. So, what do you think about drunk driving? It's a significant problem, particularly when you look at how many people died from drunk driving. We've had officers that have died because they would have a car stopped on the side of the road, and a drunk driver would come down and not pay attention, and they would get run into. So it's a significant problem. A personal friend of mine got run over by a drunk driver, run over on his bicycle, and he lost his life. So there are lots of things to do with that. And how are we going to get the legislators to address the problems? improving the physical environment and empowering the citizens, that's what we did in that apartment complex. And it really got rid of it. Now you got bigger cities that have significant problems. How do you deal with those? It's kind of like the inner city. Rural areas got one problem. There's one part of the state that we call the meth capital of the state. But then when you get to inner cities, they have the same problem. So they could be making meth in the rural areas and selling it into the inner cities. How are you going to combat that? You know, government funding for local agencies, including state, have really dropped off in a lot in the last 10 years or so. So right again, it comes down to resources and how you're going to deal with it. It's got to be a partnership. Now, I'm not saying that the public needs to give you money, but there needs to be some money coming from somewhere and not going to something else. And that's a tough decision to make because everybody wants their piece of the pie. So how are you going to divide that up to determine how much you're going to use for the drug problem? Let me know what you think, and I'll have chapter 12 up soon, and I'll have the exam up on the weekend. Take care.